Week has been crazy, but
Yeah.
let's. I'm your host Caleb,
Hi, I'm Seth. I talk stars with this man.
and we are back at the house again
Yes.
because Scotty needed the studio, and
Mhm.
so give him his space at his studio
Yep.
that we borrow. It's kind of fitting though that we're back at the house for
Yes.
this episode because this is the episode. This is so in a way this is kind of an anniversary, but it's not
This is not quite an anniversary.
because the anniversary is not truly until December.
Yeah.
Um, but it's basically an anniversary of sorts because
Mhm.
the very first episode we did was of Visions.
Yes.
At least for this format of the show, season 2 format, as I've dubbed it.
Yeah.
Because the season 1 format's entirely different. It's more of a
Yeah.
season 1's format is more of a here's the news, here's what's going on, here's our thoughts on it, and maybe no, we did do reviews back then because we started doing Clone Wars reviews because we were doing. I think we were doing chronological order similar as this, but we weren't going into the books. I think we were just doing movies and TV shows at the time for that.
I'd say for us it's predominantly books.
But for us, yeah, for this format, it's been predominantly books because High Republic just keeps coming out.
Yep.
Which they just finished the mainline comics for Phase 2.
Okay.
So issue 10 is the last of the mainline for this phase. High Republic Adventures just released issue 5, so it's halfway through because I think they're doing 10 as well. And then, which they're going to drop 6, 7, and 8 together,
All right.
I think is what I remember reading somewhere. 8, actually 8. It might just be 8 because I think it ends at 8 because that's why they're doing, hey, we're just going to drop the last 3 together and have like this big epic finale because right now issue 5 is dealing with the Battle of Jeddah. And so, but if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, you can check out the TikTok. But yeah, this week has been productive and also very unproductive for Escape Reality. So y'all, the Patreon members should have been able to watch that tabletop game that we had been talking about for the past couple weeks about Seth's birthday game.
Yep.
That should have been up for Patreon members as of like this past week. But there was a problem.
There's a slight issue.
And it's not a problem that can ever be solved, unfortunately.
Yep.
So I was editing it Tuesday while we were watching Visions.
Yeah.
For me, Visions again for Volume 2.
For me,
it was the first time, yeah. Because whenever we do TV shows, Tuesday nights we hang out anyways.
Yeah.
So we figure, okay, we'll watch the show then, and then in a case of like Visions or something short like this where it's all released at once, like Tales of the Jedi, we just watch it all at once. Shows like Mandalorian and Obi-Wan, we kind of stretch out.
Yeah.
And watch it at kind of as it comes out, maybe week behind, but it doesn't matter because usually our review is after the full season anyways. But when it all comes out at once, we just watch it all at once.
So
I forget how it dropped, but the hard drive. So all of my files are on. It's actually plugged in behind the computer here that you can't see. Usually you guys can see it out at the studio. That those hard drives that I plug into. There's a 5 terabyte hard drive that I have.
Yeah, you have like it.
That's where everything Escape Reality is. Media, comics. I'll get into that. Don't worry. Media, comics, and books. YouTube, everything. And in the case of YouTube stuff, I've also re-downloaded YouTube files. That way I can like re-air them for Twitch as almost like a TV station where I can kind of have like a backlog of stuff I can just re-air whenever. So I forget the specifics of how this happened, but I was editing the Grim Hollow one-shots, and I actually finished editing it, and it was exporting for part 1.
Yep.
And then the hard drive falls. Like, I'm sitting on a sofa, and so, like, I have the...
You're in, like, the recliner.
I'm in the recliner. And so I have, like, the hard drive's attached. The hard drive is, like, sitting on, like, an arm. I think it's on the arm.
Yeah.
And then... Did Leonard come across
Leonard and Bella were messing about like they usually do.
Yeah.
and then like one of them accidentally got like tangled up in the cords.
And so if it undoes, which of course stops the export, and I'm like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
Because usually if something like this happens, okay, I just gotta I gotta reapply when I plug it in. I just gotta plug it
Yeah.
in and then make sure that it's even worse because I started using a new editing software,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like learning the ropes of that editing software at the same time. Because I started messing with what was it trying to remember the name of it. I'm looking at my softwares right now to double check what the name is.
I'm not sure, man.
Anyways, DaVinci Resolve,
Okay.
which is from Blackmagic, which is a lot of the software that we use at the studio.
Yeah.
Or hardware, I should say, that we use at the studio, because Blackmagic creates hardware and software. DaVinci is their editing suite that they do, and you can get a free version, which is what I've got, which does pretty much everything Adobe does. So, but anyways,
unfortunately, that jolt was like,
yeah, unfortunately that particular unplug made it to where, like, so the next day I was like, okay, I'm gonna, because the next day was when it was supposed to be posted, so Wednesday was when it was supposed to be up on Patreon. So I was like, I'm just gonna finish exporting it because it's edited. All I gotta do is plug back in, because I didn't touch it the rest of the night.
Yeah, no,
like
until you left, you didn't touch it.
So I was like, okay, and so I got back to, so the next Wednesday I go into the shop at my parents' shop to go work, which really that just means I sit at the office and then do deliveries whenever they want me to. So when I'm sitting at the office, I'm usually doing escape reality stuff, either reading a comic so that way I can make a TikTok video, or making a TikTok video, like running to the car making a video real quick where it's quiet, or editing something. And so in this case I was like, I can finish exporting this. I plug it in. Computer doesn't recognize that it's plugged in. Computer doesn't even show it. I do this a couple more times, and eventually it shows it. And like I unplug and replug it in. Eventually it shows it and it says it needs to be formatted. And if you don't know anything about hardware, and hard drives specifically, a format means that I will be deleting everything and making it pretty much like almost as if I just bought it. I panicked. And at this point, I had not told anybody else what was going on. I didn't want to scare anybody yet, because I was like, okay, there might be solutions to this. Let me see what I can do. So I went through the route of going through like a couple, like I went through 2 different software that are like recovery software for hard drives. The first one, it took like until Thursday to finish scanning all the files, because once again, we're talking about a 5 terabyte hard drive, which is a lot. Now, I didn't use all 5 terabytes. It came out to like 2.5 gigabytes, or 2.5 terabytes, so like half of it is used. So like, okay, that sounds about right for me. And so then I started looking at what I could grab. Unfortunately, Grim Hollow folder was just not, like, the folder where I put those games was just not visible by the recovery software. And so, like, because it shows me like all my files that I could look at and grab stuff from. First, I created like a one-shot folder to put all my one-shots in, because we're gonna do more one-shots than the Grim Hollow stuff. Which is why at the end of the day, even after this journey, I'm okay with what happened. I'm not, but I am. It's at the point where because I would say Wednesday and Thursday I was at the bargaining side of my 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
I would say Tuesday was denial, because I didn't even touch it. I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna think about it. I skipped anger, I think. I skipped anger. So I really went through 4 stages of grief. And then bargaining was Wednesday and Thursday, with me going like, okay, what can I do to find this stuff?
Yeah.
What will it take? I even bought more space on my Google Drive, on the Escape Reality's official Google Drive, I bought a terabyte of like now it's a terabyte on there of cloud space that we've got,
Okay.
which was a good investment anyways for us, because I also paid only like $5 for it because they were doing an offer where like for the first month I could get it pretty cheap, rather than like what $10.99 it is for a terabyte, which is still not bad for cloud space, by the way. Although, unfortunately, that cloud space does include your email files, but we also don't... I delete most of the emails that aren't, like, official emails that we have to keep. So, like, anything I get from Disney for our books, I keep those emails, but, like, everything else, I kind of...
Everything else is like, won't be needing this.
Yeah. But then So, I was... The first software was, like, I can only grab 500 megabytes for free. If I wanted unlimited access, it was almost $400. It was a one-time payment, but almost $400. So I do not recommend Disc Drill if you're in a... I'm gonna call them out, because I found the video on YouTube, and I didn't realize that the video was an ad, because I didn't realize at the time that the person posting the video was the company that owns Disc Drill, because after I like saw that it was only 500 megabytes, I went back to the video to comment, hey, why didn't you mention that? And then I saw the name of the company that I bought, that I downloaded the software like from their website. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, that's why you didn't say anything. You didn't want us knowing that it's almost $400 to actually do what you're showing us in this video. Because the video just acts like, oh, you can just download whatever you need. It just takes a while depending on how big your hard drive is, which makes sense. Reddit actually was more useful in telling me about a software that I could do, because I found a software that also immediately scanned like a lot faster, like done. Like I open the software and it's there. Would have saved me a day.
Also, you fucking called me out about Boone's usage
of Crowbar. Yeah. No, I randomly found that video on TikTok and I was like, oh, that's funny. You know it's funny.
It is.
I'm kind of upset you're not on TikTok, because I don't know if TikTok is, so let me finish the story real quick and then we'll jump to TikTok stuff. So essentially I go through the second program of recovery, grab some of the stuff that I can get. It does show me the one-shot folder, but whenever I try to open it, it tries to scan it, and then it's like, doesn't work, sorry. And I would retry that a couple times, but I think that just means that the files were so corrupted that there's no way that...
Yeah, like they can't be.
So, no Grim Hollow one-shot uploads, part 1 or part 2, but it was a fun game, and I think at the end of the day, that's what matters. We had fun, and I think it's also good for the Discord community to have something that's their own, and that's what the Discord community gets. So, another reason for you to be part of the Discord and not entirely miss out.
Yep.
Yeah. Did I tell you that my buddy Malik, who also runs a D&D game, he listened in on the first part, right?
Yeah.
So he did not listen in on the second part, and he told me why, because I listened into his D&D game, because he started a Descent into Avernus campaign, adventure, because he's already been in a campaign with these players, but they now are like, let's do Descent into Avernus with these characters that we've come to love. So I listened to that, and then I was hanging out with them afterwards, because they do what we were doing, which is they just played it in the Discord, and whoever wants to listen can listen. Kind of where I stole that idea from. I was like, whoever wants to listen can listen.
Yeah.
Because originally it was just for ours. It was just going to be for the people that
were
Patreon members or are there, and so because the one shots were originally just for Patreon members, but I think to a degree I think it's just good for Discord community. Yeah. But I talked to him, and it turns out they're gonna run that exact adventure at some point. Like somebody's gonna run it for him that he's gonna be a player in, and he was like, I didn't want to get spoiled on anything, and that's why he didn't. That's why he didn't join us for part 2. But yeah, unfortunately it's lost. But which is ironic. Tavern of the Lost is lost.
Tavern of the Lost is lost, not due to weird alien god fuckery, but
To unfortunate technological mishaps.
yep,
But that all is part of the business. The hard drive has been cleaned. I can use it again.
Yep.
It already has some files on it again. I'm slowly rebuilding the files that are on it. I did lose a book that I'm working on, but that's fine. I was telling you off air.
yeah,
I kind of want to restart it anyways. I don't like where it was going. It was just very chaotic, and I couldn't like pin down the story in a way where the finale would have felt where I wanted it to.
yeah. As you explained it, you were like, "There's too many plot threads that it's like a ball of yarn." but
Yeah,
worse.
I was feeling like I forget the name that everybody's called it, but the thread that George R. R. Martin's kind of put himself into, because people have a name for that with the book series where there's just so many plot threads that he's stuck in a knot.
Yeah,
I forget the name they gave it, the something knot or whatever.
Like, I've heard of the Gordian knot, but I don't think that's
No,
what
but
this
they gave
is.
him they gave it a nickname that's like very Song of Ice and Fire nickname, and they were like, yeah, he's caught in this knot where there's just so many things that like he has to undo, which is why the next book is just taking so long, because he's got to find a creative way to tell that story while undoing the knots that he can.
Whoops.
And it's a writer's trap. It's a trap that writers get in, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, and it shows that even the most professional writers get in that trap. And so I'm kind of glad that I'm getting this fresh slate. And the benefit of doing self-publishing is I can get away with this. Whereas if I was like working for if I had an agent and a publisher, they'd be like, why is this book not out already?
You said it was gonna be out 3 months ago.
3 months is
Generous.
generous in this case. It should have, honestly, I would have preferred this book to be out a couple years ago, but we're not gonna get into that too much.
On the upside, I've given you another short story to look at in the meantime.
Yeah, you've been writing some short stories in my universe, and so that's fun.
How do you feel about the stories I've written?
I like them. I mean, once again, to me, I don't mind that you're writing in my universe, because we kind of have this agreement where it's just like,
Yep.
we got an agreement going on. So if y'all are wondering how that works, there's an agreement between us that
Yeah.
we're just like, we haven't decided on publishing details yet, but we kind of
Yeah.
know what we want to do if we go there.
If we go there.
And I think it's a fair deal,
Yeah.
pretty much a 50-50 split on cost of publishing and rewards. And so, because it's my universe, but it's also characters that you help create, and so you're kind of getting to play with that and kind of create your own pocket corner of it.
Yeah.
I've brought this character up twice in 2 podcasts now, but it's very Dritz.
Yeah.
It's very Dritz in that you have this own like part of the universe that you just kind of get to tell the story of and kind of create like more of a mythology for, like, because your character takes part in the amphibian culture.
Yes.
Mixed with some human culture, but mostly amphibian. And while there are elements of amphibian culture that I have created, it's very tribal. It's very like, it's very native.
Yeah, we don't bring this, like, it's one of the things that does not come up very often.
But they're still advanced, and they're not viewed as like, they're not like, we don't, for obvious reasons, they aren't viewed as savages.
Yeah, no.
Like, because that would be terrible, for one. But it's also their planet, so who's gonna call them that?
Yeah.
It's their world. But it is very Avatar, very native in that. But they also have advanced, like, they know about factories, they know how that works, they know about like machinery and stuff. They just choose not to use it that much. And so like they prefer bows and arrows and spears because it's more like something they can get their hands on and use.
They're easier to make.
Yeah. And so you get to play with that and kind of build up that universe even more. Because, like, you've introduced now a cantina that didn't exist there. You're like, oh, here's this cool bar that now exists.
Nefri is like... I'm trying to think of a good comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on Amphibu.
Trying to get you more in the camera.
Yeah.
No.
Bad habit of avoiding cameras and microphones. Like, I want to build up Nefri, but I'm also like... Sylvester has never been off-planet. He does not know what the fuck is happening in the wider galaxy.
Yeah, because he's very naive, but he's unlike another character from the tabletop game. Because your character comes from the tabletop
Yes.
game, which I honestly that's the next thing I kind of want to publish, if
Yeah.
anything, rather than the book that I lost. I want to publish that because that's pretty much done. And while I've lost that too, I think there's a version of it on the drive somewhere safe.
I have one of the
I think
versions
I think
I have, like,
everybody has copies
version
of
6
yeah.
of the rules, which I think is the latest one.
Yes.
So if you ever need that, just let me know.
Yeah.
I've got the ones for the other
for-
things that you made
yeah.
for it as well.
The only thing so you've got the adventure modules too?
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean yeah.
So I have a copy of those. If you
Yeah,
need.
then yeah, I'll probably reach out to you for those later. Cuz I don't know for sure if they're in the drive. I think they are,
But
if not, cuz I think they're in the drive because one of the Patreon, once again, the Patreon. One of the things that you can get for the Patreon is you get access to the
Yeah.
early access versions, as we kind of dubbed them.
Yep.
But like yeah, you created Sylvester for that because like I created the stat blocks,
yes,
but everybody got to create the backgrounds for their characters with me. Like
Yeah.
I kind of built some of the background, but then you guys kind of developed it. No. So I created the initial background because I created the entire character sheet because I was like, here's some beginner character
Yep.
sheets, just like every other, just like in any other tabletop game, you get your beginner box set, you get your beginner characters that you can use that are pre-mades in case you don't know how to make a character, and say you just want to jump in and figure out how the game works, because that's, it's some players do not want to have to deal with creating a character for an
Yeah.
RPG system they don't know about.
What if you're me? And
But-
insane. You'll learn how to do that within.
I mean, and eventually everybody does.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of your first time. Maybe
First
it's just
time is not as easy.
no, which we'll talk about that a little bit
Did I make
after.
a joke?
You unfortunately brought a joke up of that without knowing it, but we'll talk about it after we finish
Okay.
Super Universe.
So Sylvester is not quite like Tsub.
Yeah, so Tsub is another character. He was a pre-made character. Nobody picked him. He kind of
Yeah.
became a NPC because he was kind of important to one of the
Yeah.
beginner modules. Because I was like, okay, he needs to be there so that way you guys have like a backdoor to the plot.
Yeah.
And so he was there for plot and plot alone. But he became like a lovable, like he became
Yeah.
like the little brother that everybody
Yeah,
brought along with them,
everyone's like looking out for.
or fucking with.
Yeah.
So Tsub also he's a amphibuian. You are a human, but you're both
Yeah.
from Amphibu.
Technically, Sylvester is
Oh,
not
yeah.
pure human.
No, he's
It's one
Ashwinian.
of the things where it's like,
He's Ashwinian, but we picked more of the
for
human.
the sake of simplicity, we were like, oh, we forgot people might bang. And I was like, well, in order to make it simple, I'll just use the stats of a human.
Yeah, because the Ashwinian, because I gave you the choice. I was like, do you
Yeah.
want the Ashwinian traits or the human traits? And you were like, the human traits.
Yeah.
Because Ashwinian comes with a benefit, but it also, like, just like any RPG system, you have your traits that are useful per
Yeah.
species.
I was like, while the trait for the Ashwinian is very cool, I was like,
It also
It-
isn't.
it's also
it's
very
not
situational.
it's also not 100% because I think
Yeah.
there was a roll attached to it.
I think it was like you had to beat 90% or higher.
Yeah, because
Admittedly, that's a
Admittedly,
very strong ability.
yeah, because basically
That's
he's
the
one punch.
why.
Because he's basically one punch man. If you did Ashwinian, because Ashwinian basically punch your Ash.
Yep.
But I made the threshold so high to account for that because I
Yeah.
was like, balance that out, and I could probably lower that threshold.
Yeah.
I could probably make it 75% and still get like a good.
I feel like 80% is.
It's something
75 is too.
we can do more playtests.
Yeah.
Because that is something that you've
I
been
want
like.
to go and do it again. I want to go and see more of that world.
Yeah. And so,
Like,
basically,
While Sylvester and
yeah, while
Sub come from the same.
to Sub is more innocent, and you are more. So you're both very much ignorant about the wider galaxy.
Yeah.
But to Sub is more innocent about it and naive, whereas you're more cold-hearted about it. Not all the time, but
No, it's not a case of intentional cruelty.
no, it's very much ignorant cruelty where you're like, I think I'm doing the right thing, and I'm just doing what I was told. But it's very much I was told to do this thing, so I'm gonna do exactly what I was told to do, like to
Yep.
the letter.
Exact words. You better be careful with that.
Is Sylvester
What?
is he autistic?
Uh,
He's at least autistic coded,
I didn't intend to write him that
but
way.
it sounds that way.
I remember I was like, he's social awareness. I'm like, oh, his awareness stat is like a -3, and so is his like charisma.
So that's just how you played it.
That's
Yeah.
just how
and,
I played it.
and it's become coded that way. So
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a
Like,
fun little
he
thing
doesn't
for
want to be
no,
cruel.
no. And I
Like,
don't think I think he's a good person. He
he-
just does.
it's-
He just doesn't understand what.
Yeah, I feel real bad for that lady.
If you want context for that, we did upload the. That is stuff we did not
Mhm.
lose. The playtest for that
Yeah,
is
that's
up.
still on the channel.
Yeah. So
Also, Sylvester being like, I'm gonna power bomb this crime boss out a window.
almost died.
Hey, you walked it off.
Yeah. Should not have been able to, but he did. That was because somebody used
I
a
had saved up 4 hero points.
yeah, hero points, yeah.
I needed 1 more, and they were like, "We'll give it to you."
Yeah, who was it Josh who gave it to you?
I think Josh did. Yeah, I think it was him because he's like,
He was just like, that's so cool that you should have that.
it's either that or he was like, wait a minute, we need this guy on our side because he's insane and we can put all the blame on
Which
him.
I love, yeah. Which I love how Josh, like,
God,
Josh is very rule of cool.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes he's very much letter of the rules as written, but he's gotten better at doing rule of
Mm.
cool. And I think that was one of the experiences where he was like, oh, rule of cool.
yeah.
Um,
God,
but yeah,
go and listen to that.
one of the other things though, going back to
Yes.
TikTok, why I want you on TikTok so badly is I come across so much Fallout content.
Oh yeah.
There's so much Fallout content that I'm always coming across, and it's always those videos where it's like you get the background thing, where it's
Mhm.
like me and my friends when this happens, and then you have like a clip of like from Walking Dead or Breaking Bad, where they have like the characters doing like the
Yeah.
hell yeah or whatever, right? And in this case, like lately, it's been New Vegas, and they're like they're like when I show up to the strip and I'm listening to this song and it's the Pistols.
Oh, Big Iron.
It's the Big Iron song, yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, the code in the game is fucked up for that song, so it plays twice as often.
I mean, it's a good song, and it's a song that obviously fans like, because at least from my TikTok feed, they're like, yes, this is the
Yeah.
song I want to hear when I show up to the strip.
Oh, God. So for those of you who are not familiar,
Which New Vegas is one of your favorites.
yes, that game starts with you getting shot in the head and buried out in the desert,
Yeah.
and from then on, it's just a mess of chaos.
Yeah.
Be good, be bad, be neither of those things.
Yeah, I'll show you. Let me see.
Side
if
with the
I-
government. Don't side with the government. Become them. Do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, this was one for Fallout 3.
Oh god.
One-
Fallout 3.
My goofy ass wandering the wasteland with my Pip-Boy radio blasting this banger.
Morning, a missionary of a kindly old sign.
And it's showing the Fallout 3, like the main city. I forget the name of the main like part of
I
like
know where that is.
the main wasteland area, and when you're getting into the city, closer to where where Free Dog is and all that, you're getting
Yeah.
closer to that part of the city, and so and then it's showing Michael Scott from The Office dancing to it. And then the little the little description says, "What do you mean enemies can hear my radio? I'm crouched."
That's That's not how that works. Also, remember to hold down the B or circle button to turn off your Pip-Boy light, because that affects your stealth stuff as well. A thing I didn't know
Uh.
for like 3 playthroughs.
Oh yeah, another one is this one is a skit, but it's him talking about the ending of Fallout 3 where you're trying to get where you try to
I
get
know.
Fox to replace you to go into the radiation, and Fox is like, "No, I can't. You got to do this."
No.
No, why do I have to sacrifice myself? You are literally able to go through this stuff without being
We had
poisoned.
this exact situation in this game earlier.
And you did it. You did it for me. Why can't you do it again? Like your race, you're super immune, and your entire purpose is that you can avoid that shit.
Yep. I'm glad that the DLCs fixed that.
Yeah, but
Also-
it's still a funny
Yeah.
little thing of like it's a nugget that's funny. I know at some point I want to play Fallout 1 and 2 again.
Hmm.
For Twitch at some point cuz
Yep.
Fallout 1 and 2 are great. They're a difficult
They are
and
an old school game.
they are difficult. But I also like those type of games cuz
Mm.
like I play Baldur's Gate. I play like
Yeah.
it's from the same people. It's from Black Isle and all of them, Interplay.
Like,
So I mean, and it uses the AP style points, which is what Divinity Original Sin, which I just started playing for the channel, uses. I kind of like AP. I like AP, and I like turn based. Real time with pause, I can kind of get used to. I just don't always like. Action roleplay is fine. My biggest problem with it is stuff like, well, I like Mass Effect. I don't like the idea that I can only use guns. Because I'm like, oh, it's a role-playing game. I should be able to use all these cool weapons. Just guns.
Nope.
It's a shooter.
bullets.
Bullets.
Bullets
Or
are the-
lasers.
Bullets or lasers. Those are your choices.
And hand grenades. Because in Mass Effect, you do have grenades. And because it can come with your biotics as well. Because you can just have regular grenades, or you could have the biotic ability where you... Yeah. At least in 3, it becomes a biotic thing.
Also, speaking of 3, there is an option that I think I would take because we've discussed this.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Which is what I'm currently playing. I actually played some last night with the Legendary Edition. But you were saying you're...
so you know that how that weird thing will offer you a choice at the end of the game?
Oh, yeah. The 3 options.
There's a 4th option.
Oh. Just go ahead and tell me. I'm listening. I'm
The
just...
4th option is, what if I just shot you?
Yeah. Okay, so I was looking up last minute news so that way
Yeah.
we can quickly have something.
Not
The very first piece of news is something I am angry about because this was sold with this idea in mind. And you're reading the title and you know
okay.
what I'm talking about.
I get it.
So we're gonna kind of go into Star Wars news now because we've been kind of just
Yeah.
catching up. We're not in a rush today.
Yeah.
Like it's a Saturday and we're not in the office. We're kind of just chilling. And like unless there's a D&D game for you guys tonight, I know there's one for me later
think
tonight,
so.
but that's
I think
like
it's around 4 though.
Okay. We got time. So for news, the very first article I saw on Star Wars Newsnet, it angers me because Aspire
I understand why with your history with this game.
Aspire announces that Knights of the Republic 2 Switch port will not receive restored content mod update. So for 2 things. One, it was sold on the basis that this update would be pretty much almost day one. Like they made it sound like this was coming with the game pretty soon. Like when it was released. It, by the way, it's been almost a year since... Actually, no, it's been a year since Knights of the Republic 2 dropped on the Switch for their port. For the remaster port, whatever you want to call it. And I know it's been about a year because I got to meet a really nice guy that was working for Aspire at the time as part of the community manager. He's no longer there, but really nice guy. and I remember about a year ago I got to meet him, and we were talking about this update and like trying to figure out, hey, when do we know when this might happen? And like we couldn't get answers out of him at the time because we didn't know. A year later, here it is. It's not coming. And so this mod is very important to Knights of the Republic 2 in particular. Because the restored... So, Knights of the Republic 2 was made by Obsidian. Funny that we were just talking about
Yep.
another game that, Fallout New Vegas. There's something that Obsidian is well known for when it comes to games that they make for other companies whenever they make like a sequel for another company, like with Fallout or Knights of the Republic 2. It's a very infamous thing for them, which is 90% of the time, those games are rushed. Not something on Obsidian's end. It's a publisher end where they're always rushed on their games. It's why New Vegas, while a lot of fans have come to love it, it's the buggiest of the Fallout games.
It's issues. It's very well written.
Which is always Obsidian. Once again, they know how to write a game.
It
They know.
takes forever to load sometimes.
Usually-
Actually, it's usually pretty.
Yeah, but
Like,
like,
you load a lot. That's
yeah.
actually, I'd say, the main problem.
so usually Obsidian, when they get into these sort of deals, they always end up with very buggy games, and most of the time, a lot of cut content. A lot of the time, because they just got to get that game out. In this case, they had to get it out in less than a year or
Yeah.
something like that for Knights 2, because Knights of the Republic 1 came out in 2003. I think Knights 2 is 2004.
Yep.
So, yeah, they were... Because originally BioWare was going to make Knights 2, but then LucasArts at the time, who was the company that was licensing it out, was like, hey, we want you guys to make it within a year. And BioWare was like, no. And then they passed the buck to Obsidian, because they were like, hey, there's this other company that we know that could probably do it. Kind of love and hate BioWare for doing that. It's like, BioWare, really? But also with modern BioWare, that doesn't surprise me with how BioWare is today. It kind of fits the MO now. But Obsidian accepted the project, and unfortunately, a lot of content got cut. Like,
Yeah.
whole worlds got cut for Knights 2. So the fans made the restored content mod. It's a very popular mod where, like, to the point that, like, when you get Knights of the Republic 2 on Steam now, it automatically includes the restored content mod. Because you just can't play the game without it. Xbox players of Knights of the Republic 2 are kind of out of luck, because Knights of the Republic came out on Xbox and PC when it was originally released, both games. They didn't come out on PlayStation or anything else. But yeah, so I'm kind of mad because that pretty much makes Knights of the Republic 2 like, it's playable, but it's not as good of a game as it should be. Like, it's still a good game,
Yeah.
but it's just not the game that it could be. And let me look through the article and see if there's like let's see. So this was dropped today. In fact, this is news from today. Let's see. So they dropped on their Twitter page that the restored content mod will not be available for the Switch version of the game. However, if you already bought the game on the Switch, Aspyr has promised to provide a free video game key that will allow you to get another classic Star Wars game free. Hey, I can get a free Star Wars game. Nice. You can see the list of retro... I don't know what game I don't have at the moment on Switch. I think I've got all the games, actually, on Switch.
A lot.
Well, for Star Wars, I think I got all because Aspyr, they do all the classic Star Wars ports. So they've done Racer's Revenge. No, sorry, not Racer's Revenge. Episode 1 Racer. Racer's Revenge has never had a port, except for the PS4. Because PS2 games got a port to PS4 back in the day. Because they PS2 had the ports of Bounty Hunter, Racer Revenge, and Jedi Starfighter that got moved to PS4. So, which, y'all remember my gameplay of Bounty Hunter? Whew, that game did not age well. It has a good story. But the game is like, hey, for difficulty, let's just bum rush you with enemies.
Mm.
That's what difficulty is, right? That's not how difficulty works.
No.
That's just being annoying.
All right.
Um,
Anything else today on the?
hold on, I'm kind of invested. Oh, but here's the letter, the full letter. We'd like to thank the KOTOR community for their immense passion and support for the Star Wars Knights of the Republic series. That passion allowed us to bring this timeless series to the Nintendo Switch, and we are forever grateful. Sadly, today we are announcing that the restored content DLC for the Nintendo Switch version of Knights of the Republic 2, The Sith Lords, will not be moving forward for release. We'd like to thank everyone for their continued support by providing a complimentary video game key to players that purchase Star Wars Knights of the Republic 2, The Sith Lords on Nintendo Switch before this announcement. Players may pick a replacement key from the following list. So they include the Steam version, which I also own for Knights 2. So you can get Knights of the Republic 1 on Nintendo Switch, I already own that. Force Unleashed on Nintendo Switch, I already own that. Republic Commando on Nintendo Switch, I own that. Episode 1 Racer on Nintendo Switch, I think I own that. Yeah, I own that. Because I remember replaying it recently, and I was like, oh, it's still as difficult as I remember, but I actually beat it. Jedi Knight Jedi Academy and Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast also on the Switch. Also, I have those. So useless to me. But for those of you that did get Knights 2 on release for Switch and are kind of bummed out about not getting the DLC and you don't have any of these other games, now's the time to get a free game.
Yep.
So, speaking of Knights of the Republic, there's been murmuring of like the remake still moving forward. Some more official video game news channels have talked about it, and they've been like, yeah, the studio is basically talking about how they're starting fresh, so we're getting it. In fact, it was on one of their earnings calls, so it's still like in the it's on the on their planner essentially. It's just a matter of when are we getting it, we don't know.
All right.
So it's at least still on their list of games to work on. So it's not dead, which is good because I think a remake would very much be loved by there would be complaints because everybody would be like, oh, it's not like the original, because they're gonna make story changes.
Yeah.
But I think that's fine. I think some stuff, especially if my theory is correct, which is that I think the remake is going to be a canonized version of the events. I think you'll still be allowed to pick your character creation stuff because it's an RPG, but I think it's going to be as canonized as an RPG can be in that sense.
Yeah.
They just won't canonize your gender or your I wonder if they'll have different endings. They probably will. So probably won't canonize the ending right away. They'll probably do what Legends did, which is that they don't canonize anything too much right away, but then eventually we get a Revan novel, and then they're like, okay, here's the canon event.
Here's what happened.
Yeah. And I think that's the path to go. And while fans initially didn't like the Revan novel for doing that, I think in the long term, fans have kind of gotten over it and been like, I kind of like what they did. I know, I have a lot of mutuals that say, the Revan novels, out of the Old Republic novels, is one of the best novels. And while it doesn't treat certain characters like Mitra Surik, your player character from Knights 2, very well, because Drew Karpyshyn did not create Mitra because he's a BioWare employee, so he didn't make Knights of the Republic 2, because, he's not a BioWare employee anymore, but he was at the time, because, he's wrote Knights of the Republic 1. I think he had a hand in Dragon Age to a degree, but that's more David Gaider's game. But Drew definitely I know he had a hand in Mass Effect. He's a big, Mass Effect was his baby, along with a few others people involved. But especially since I, for a while, had my series on TikTok of me comparing Knights of the Republic and Mass Effect and going, this is why they're the same game, essentially. You have a character telling you that a danger from the outer regions of space is on their way, and nobody believes him.
Motherfuckers better shape up, and then no one believed him.
Because it doesn't appear in Knights 1, but in Knights 2 and in the Revan novel, the whole premise is that Revan's like, hey, The true Sith are on their way.
Fuck. No, they're not.
What are you talking about? And then he goes out to go deal with it himself, and then he disappears. Whereas, Commander Shepard, same idea. The Reapers are coming. The what?
What?
You mean that bedtime story that we tell to scare kids?
Yeah. They're real, idiot.
So I imagine.
I keep telling you
I
all
am-
of this bullshit, but you won't listen.
So I always view Mass Effect as they're like, here's how we tell the rest of the Knights of the Republic story that we wanted to tell, without having to use the licensed character and universe. We just make an OC version of events. This is our OC. Do not steal.
Yep. Oh
um,
god.
But yeah, but that's pretty much it on
Yeah.
real news that I want to talk about. Like, I saw that article, and I was like, we should probably talk about that because we're gamers.
Yep.
And in my case,
I
Knight.
enjoy video games.
In my case, I really like the Knights of the Republic games. They definitely formed my opinion on like some of the best Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like the Knights of the Republic comic. Knights of the Republic comic is like one of my number one pieces of media of Star Wars that I always recommend, even though it's not canon anymore, because it has one of the most Jedi to ever Jedi who is no longer a Jedi, and in fact never graduated to being a knight. Like, he was just an apprentice, and then he was given knighthood. He went through the same bullshit Ahsoka went through before Ahsoka.
Yep.
He got framed for a crime, except in this case it was murdering his fellow Jedi apprentices who graduated.
You know,
Who were his best friends, by the way.
why would I do this?
So because he fell to the dark side, obviously, because he was not as good as them, because he had a little, he had a learning disability with the Force, is what they call it in the comic, because they talk about how, like, he has this kind of disability when it comes to, like, how the Force works for him. But they make it real, by the end of the comic, they make it clear that disability does, like, while a disability, he learns to live with it, and I think that's like a very strong lesson when it comes to disabilities, because like everybody always is
Yeah,
like everybody, like, in other pieces of media they would have been like, oh, his disability is a superpower. In this comic it's like, no, his disability is still in the way, he's just learned how to like counteract with it and kind of live with it, which is more realistic to like how people
Yeah.
deal with disabilities.
They don't.
You don't
Go
just,
away.
they don't go away, they don't give you superpowers. Like, you don't get, it's not Daredevil effect. While I like Daredevil, you don't get stronger senses because one of your senses is dulled. Realistically, it doesn't work that way. Like, maybe a little bit heightened, but not to Daredevil
Not
levels.
Daredevil. Well,
But then again,
There's a
his
reason
comes
why.
from the ooze
this
that
comes
all.
from the same ooze that made the Ninja Turtles.
But I mean, but yeah,
I love the idea that Daredevil hangs out with the Ninja Turtles.
but yeah, Zane.
That's not a thing
Yeah,
anymore.
But like
I
Zane,
like it.
but in the case of Zane Carrick, the main character of the Knights of the Republic comic, because it doesn't focus on Revan or any of those characters. Like, and that's the other reason that comic is really good. Like, it takes place in a time period that we're familiar with. For if you're a Knights fan, it takes place during the Mandalorian Wars, so 4 or so years before the events of the video game, of the first game, and it fills in some of the gaps of like how those characters get there, because like Revan does appear in cameos, although they never. This is at the time when there was no canon appearance of Revan, so hooded all the time, except for the one time when they show how Revan got their mask, which is one of the most fucked up stories. But they show how Revan gets his mask. But Malik is a tertiary character. He's like a friend of Zane's who pops in and out. Although that friendship slowly gets stretched over time, where they're like, "Are you going crazy?" Because you start to see the dark side of Malik. Because Revan is redeemable because there's something about Revan that like makes him redeemable still. Whereas Malik, even by the end of the video game, is not redeemable whatsoever. And Malik admits this. Malik is like, I am not redeemable. I'm just gonna die. And sometimes your villains, especially in Star Wars, sometimes they don't need to be redeemable.
Hey man, look.
Like, I understand the idea of wanting to redeem a character and wanting to try. but not all characters will.
Me and my hard mercy stance.
Like, you can still try, I think, but at the end of the day, if a character chooses not to be
Yeah,
redeemed,
it's
then
like, well,
okay.
you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
All right, so let's talk Visions.
Yeah,
Why we're here today?
yeah, the thing we said we were gonna do in the title.
So we're gonna talk about Visions Volume 2. We're kind of gonna do a similar version to what we did the very first episode of this season.
Yeah.
Where we're gonna talk about our favorites, but we're not gonna go over every episode and rank them like we did in that episode. Because in that episode we went over every episode, then we ranked them like
Yeah,
top from bottom to top or whatever.
we're not doing that.
So highlights. Off the bat, I like that once again they start strong.
Yeah,
Sith is a really interesting and a good episode to start with. I don't think it's their strongest episode, but
No.
I think it is a strong start, similar to how they started with the duel, where they were like, "Here's a good fighting episode, and it looks pretty." It's not my favorite episode, but it's not my least favorite. It does what it needs to kind of get you back into Visions. I like the idea of like this art style thing that they had going, where she was an artist, but then also like the art is through the Force, and so like it can come to life, and like it doesn't come to life, but it like
yeah,
connects her to the Force better, and her lightsaber also at the end is really cool. Go ahead. What's your favorite episode off? Like,
I'd say that I actually like Screecher's Reach.
Screecher's Reach is so like it was one that on the second viewing and after reading the description I learned some stuff and I was like,
So I think to use a comparison, like for why to me it was like when you mentioned it later on, I was like, well, yeah, duh. I think it was because like I have a weird thing where I'm like, I don't fucking trust anything that's going on right now.
yeah.
Like
Well,
that weird intuition moment. I'm
Yeah.
like, if that was like one of our tabletop RPGs, that'd probably be the moment towards the end where I'm like, I'm gonna take out my gun.
it's
right
like running
now.
into the mother.
Yeah, it's like, no, something here isn't right. My brain picked up on it, but it doesn't know.
Like you didn't know like the specific reason.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know what's wrong here.
So at the end of so spoilers.
Yeah.
At the end. Oh, let me put up the little spoiler tag.
Spoilers. So,
Yeah. So at the end, so the basic premise of the episode is a girl and her friends work in like this basically like mining town,
yeah, this like god awful mining town.
which is like to the point that they're using children.
Yeah,
Which
child labor.
child
Woo.
labor. And so they're like, we're gonna go on an adventure
Yeah.
and get out of here, and we don't know beyond that why. Like we
Yep.
know that the lead girl's like, I'm getting out of here today. For like she's like, I'm done.
Fuck this place. I'm leaving.
You can't stop me. And so like the friends are like, well, we'll go with you then. And so initially she's like, no, I gotta do
Yeah.
this by myself, but they follow her anyways. And
'Cause
so
that's-
because friends,
Yep.
that's how friends work. They're gonna, if you're like, hey, I'm gonna go for freedom, your friends are gonna be like, well, why can't I?
Yep.
So after going through this cave where like the Screecher is at, which is like this ghost tale that they talk about, the girl stays behind because they find out that the Screecher's real. Girl fights it. Everybody gets out. Girl comes out with lightsaber in hand because it turns out the Screecher was a Sith.
Yeah.
And then this angelic looking thing, but it's like biblical angelic, not like the portrait angelic. It's like biblical angelic, so scary.
I'm like, this is a fucking Guillermo del Toro angel over here.
But she comes out and she's like, "Oh, good, you got my call and you defeated the thing I told you to defeat. All right, you come with me. As for your friends, they stay behind."
Yep.
And so on my first watching, because once again, it was a second
Yeah.
viewing for me when I watched with you. On my first watch, I was like, oh, this is like a very like, it's a Jedi thing because like I get it to a degree. Like if it
Mhm.
had been a Jedi, because like separating from the attachments,
Yeah.
I get that, but it was also very creepily done, and I was like, something off about this Jedi, but like I still think it's a Jedi. So we watched it again, and I still had that vibe. And so I was like, oh, I kind of want a better understanding of the story. So I look up the Wikipedia article, which I have up right now, actually,
Yep.
and it says Sith Mother, played by Angelica Houston. I'm like, and it like goes into the fact that it's the Sith Mother at the end, and I'm like, so it was a Sith, and that was her ex-apprentice. And so yeah, and that's the story. And I'm
There's
like,
only 2 of us allowed to be in.
although like.
Yeah,
Whether or not that's true, depending on the timeline,
Yeah. Who really knows?
we know
Anyhow.
we know at least in the first short that's true because the first short the Sith Master's like, all right, you got to be the new master
Yeah,
now, go
Also,
kill me.
oh, cool. You want off planet? Go kill my apprentice.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's one of your favorites.
Yes.
One of my favorites, if we're gonna go like in like the order of them like being shown. In the Stars. In the Stars is so good. That's the one that you laughed for a second at a really
Oh,
sad
yeah.
moment. In the Stars, I really like it. It's because it's like this sisterhood story
Mhm.
while also being like this story about freedom from oppression, and like it's very like, and the art style I really liked. It was very similar to Arden, because the next episode is the Aardman episode, but
Yeah.
this one is also very Aardman in style. Like it's stop motion, claymation
Yeah.
almost, but it's more stop motion than clay motion, so it's within that wheelhouse though. And I really liked it, and I thought it was really good for what they were doing. We get this nice story of them getting freedom for their planet, and I really like the water effect also
Mhm.
when the water comes.
Yeah, that's a very good thing that I saw.
That was a really good effect the way they did the water.
Yeah.
Because like the story is that Empire is polluting this planet. The sisters are the last of their kind on the planet because their mother led a revolution that failed, and their mother and the rest of the population were killed off. Which is when you laughed because the way they present it kind of made him laugh at first, but it's like it's sad, but it's like
It's sad, but like the memorial thing that she does is
yeah, because it's like
"Remember our
force
mom?"
because it's like force magic where it's
Yeah.
like it's like this wall painting,
Yeah.
but it's like using force magic, and so this younger sister's like, see what our mom did to save everybody, and it shows like the movement, the cave painting essentially
Yeah.
moving, and it's just like, though I guess to you the way it was presented, it was hilarious.
It's not supposed to be.
No, to-
I did not.
I think it was more of you just weren't expecting it, and so it like it came out of nowhere for you.
Yeah. I'm not laughing at the fact that 2 children lost their parents and loved ones. It's just that it's presented as like, yep.
But yeah, and so the Empire is polluting their planet and also stealing all their water. And so older sister, like every few months, goes off to get water.
Yeah.
Younger sister, who believes that she's strong in the Force. Spoilers, yes, but older sister is also a lot stronger in it.
Mm.
But older sister kind of denies her Force abilities.
Yeah.
But younger sister wants to go and is like, we can take on the Empire like Mom tried to. And older sister's like, no, you need to stay here. Let me get some water. But it becomes this whole thing of them
Yep.
running through the factory together because younger sister sneaks in because obviously that was going to happen.
Yeah. Because they never do what you fucking tell them to.
And so we get this cool moment where just when the ATST is being brought in and they're about to relive what happened to their mom, they use the Force to
Yep.
get the water to come crashing
Woo.
out. And the water effects are amazing.
Yeah.
I watch it for the water effects alone and the rest of but it's a good story too. The next episode, I Am Your Mother, is also on my tops, but that's because I like
I Am Your
Aardman. I'm an Aardman fan, and so like I love pretty much anything Aardman does. Like I've got Early Man up here, which is like one of their most forgotten about films. which is basically what if cavemen played football to like beat the Bronze Age soldiers coming in to take over their village.
What?
It's a good movie. It's a good movie. And apparently they're doing a Chicken Run too, which I'm excited about because Chicken Run is peak Aardman and peak DreamWorks. Because that was Aardman helping with DreamWorks because Aardman had that contract with DreamWorks where they had to do like 3 movies, but I think they only did 2 out of the 3 because the other one was flushed away.
Oh God,
Yeah.
they did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that.
Hugh Jackman as a mouse.
That was weird. I saw that in theaters with my grandma.
It's a good movie though. Like
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman as a mouse that wears a tuxedo. Going through the sewers, man.
Yeah.
But I Am Your Mother is fun. That one's
Yeah.
that one's one of the more lighthearted episodes.
Yes.
It's very much just Aardman doing let's have a funny story, and it's like I like some of the Easter eggs. So I like Wedge Antilles appearing to like announce this race
Yep.
that's happening, which Wedge is play. They bring back his actor Dennis Lawson to play him for that because Dennis Lawson's the original Wedge, who's appears also in episode 9. I also like the Easter egg of the main character being named Annie because the episode's title is I Am Your Mother, and so the main character is Annie, which is also Anakin's nickname.
Yeah.
And then it's about her and her mom, and it's basically this like it's a classic race like movie race story where it's like we're gonna race against like the rich jerks and
Yeah.
try to beat them. They're gonna use all their rich money to have like the best
They're rich.
they're gonna have the best vehicle and we gotta beat them, you know what I'm
I
talking
know,
about.
I know.
It's very
I'm
much
sorry. I'm just.
no, I
laughing
know
at
I'm
the-
being redundant, I know.
the rich money.
They're rich money.
I know what you mean.
And apparently there's like some other Easter eggs like that
Oh,
I
yeah.
missed, which like they like there's some Aardman specific Easter eggs, like they have the robot cooker from Wallace and Gromit in the background as a character, and that so they had fun with it. What's
I
your
was
next?
unaware that
yeah.
we were going like people die in that race. That's not a joke.
No, people die in that race, but that's also just racing in Star Wars in general.
Yeah.
I've never seen a competition in Star Wars.
Where no one has died.
Like there are sports in Star Wars where nobody dies, but there are never races in
Yeah.
Star Wars where nobody dies.
Oh.
Like swoop bike. Actually, swoop bike racing might be the only. Even then,
No.
even then, people could die.
Yeah.
But like swoop bike racing works differently than like a pod race,
Yeah.
where swoop bike is more time trial and getting the best time. But people can still die because their engines could explode,
Yeah.
and so like, especially
You
if
won't be murdered in swoop bike racing.
pod racing, you will.
Like,
But
oh,
nobody gets
yeah.
arrested for it, even on the planets where like that should be illegal. Like Malastare is in the Republic.
Yeah.
Like Qui-Gon talks about how they pod race on Malastare, but in video game, like in Racer's Revenge, where you can actually knock out pods, because in Episode 1 Racer you can't knock out a pod, but in Racer's Revenge you can. Malastare is one of the tracks. Like there's 3 tracks on Malastare actually, because they have multiple tracks on the same planets. That's a Republic-controlled world where Republic law would be.
Don't pod race. We'll just kill you.
Now in canon there are other sports where you
Yeah.
can like Rav Ball from the Servants of the Empire books, which that you won't die from that.
Yeah.
Hut Ball you won't die from.
You might get hurt, but
Yeah.
you're not gonna die.
Same thing even with the arena, the Hunter's arena.
Yeah.
You're not.
You're gonna get hurt. You're not gonna die though.
Yeah, at least not by design. Like
Not intentionally.
not intentionally. Like Hunter's arenas are designed for you to not die.
Yeah. Although
although-
I guess Journey to the Dark Head, the next one.
Yeah.
I actually really
Is
like
that
this.
your okay?
Yeah.
I was about to say, is that your number 2 pick?
Yeah, I'll
that-
go for having that as number 2.
Okay, that is also on my list, but I'll let you have that one, and I'll bring up a different number 3.
So, I think the reason for it, I I just love the mechanic.
The pilot?
and the Jedi that they've got. I love that dynamic. It's very fun to me. It's like, I don't want you here. Well, I don't want you here either.
Yeah, Aura and Toll.
Yeah, Oriental.
And then I actually like the villain by Chan.
Yeah, because he's such a Star Wars villain. He like leans into it. He's like, yeah.
He's very mustache twirling,
He's
but he
like-
has no mustache
Yeah,
to twirl.
he's like, oh yeah, I killed your friends. What are you gonna do about it, punk?
You're gonna join me. That's what you're gonna
That's
do.
what you're gonna do. It was like, what?
I think we made the joke afterwards because I was watching TikTok stuff, and the audio clip from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came up,
Mhm.
where Ego's like, it was a shame I had to put that tumor in her head. What? That's the joke that we made about that scene. We're like, what'd you expect to go down?
What did you think was gonna happen? Oh,
I'll let you do your number 3 first, but I think we'll have the same episode because the next
Yeah.
episode I think is on both of our lists again.
number 3.
Unless you're a little bit further down, but the Spy Dancer's on my list. I don't know if it's on your top
Okay.
3. I mean, you get number 3 pick though first.
Number 3 pick that
All that's left is Spy Dancer, Bandits, Pit, and Ao's song.
I'm torn.
Unless you wanted,
between-
unless we skipped an episode you liked.
Nah,
I don't think
I'm
so.
torn between the Pit and the Bandits of Golok.
Okay. I mean, we can talk about both. We can make them a tie for your number 3.
I think,
The Pit, both of them have a kind of happy ending. It's a bittersweet ending.
yeah. I think I'm gonna go with the Bandits of Golok.
That is
Mostly because it's like,
It's a good episode.
yeah.
It's a very good So I really like Indian animation. I
Mhm.
realized because I was like, this animation's really good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've seen too much Indian animation before. But I really liked it, and I really like the Inquisitor design. So like the premise is brother is taking his sister on a train, and they're trying to avoid
Because Grandpa told him to do that.
yeah, and this is like early Order 6, like
Yeah.
not like early Order 66 in episode 3 range, but like maybe
I'd
a year or
say,
two
like-
after.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
it's-
a few months.
Yeah, it's still within that range of like that Inquisitors are heavily hunting down Jedi.
Yeah.
Because like so the brother and sister are going to this village that Grandpa told them to go to. But sister can't help but like play with the Force, and
Yeah, and it's like,
she like plays because she uses the Force to grab this flute that's a family relic,
mhm.
and she wants to play because she wants to play it, and her brother's like, no, you don't play it right now. We're trying to not be
trying to be inconspicuous.
yeah, and playing a flute will draw attention.
Yeah.
Um,
Not as much as using the Force to get it will, though.
yeah, because she uses the Force to grab it from his bag while he gets up to go get snacks
Yeah.
for her because she wants some snacks.
Yeah.
Because a kid. And they have this little game that they do call it where like they got the bandits and then you got your bandit king essentially.
Yep.
And she's always the one in charge. And he's like, all right. And they have the little finger thing where they
Yeah.
like do this essentially with both fingers, and it's like it's very cute, and it's very much a cute sibling dynamic.
Yeah.
And so they get a little bit busted, deal with stormtroopers, run off the train, manage to find the village still, and then an Inquisitor tracks them down. And I really like the Inquisitor's
Yeah.
design. He's got this blue skin with this cool hood and everything.
The best part of this one, for me,
Is it the storm?
Is when he's on top of the train and he's like got candy in his hands, because that's like, he's like, oh, well, I can't let them know that my sister can use the Force. How about I steal this
Oh, the brother,
candy?"
yeah.
And he's like looking out over the side at like all the people that are there, and he's like, all this for some sweets? It's like, you guys take that really fucking serious, huh? God forbid you steal a 50-cent lollipop.
My favorite moment in this episode is when the Inquisitor, during the fight
Yeah.
at the end, when the leader of the village, it turns out, is a Jedi.
Yeah.
And so, like, most people have already gone inside from this village because apparently this village is well known for its dust storm, like sandstorms.
The
Very often,
sandstorms in the region are bad.
like they're bad and they're frequent enough that people can kind of tell when they're coming.
Yeah.
And so one of these sandstorms is happening and during this duel, and it's very awesome. And the funniest thing happens, which is when the Inquisitor goes in to swing at the Jedi, and she just force pushes him into the storm, and he just goes, "Ugh," and falls flat on his stomach. It's hilarious.
What did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, what'd you think was gonna happen? But once again, it's one of those bittersweet
Yeah.
endings because the brother has to leave it, like the sister has to leave her brother behind because
Yeah.
she has to go with the Jedi because she's a Force user, he's not,
Yep.
and that was the whole point of the journey, was to bring her to safety.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I'm like, the brother knows the entire time.
Or at least
Or
he
at
he had
least-
noticed that this might be a trip where
Where sister's not coming back.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think he knew the extent,
Yeah.
but she gets the flute in the end. No, wait, he gets it because she gives it
Yeah.
back. Like, he gives it to her because he thinks that, like, oh, you'll want this. And then she gives it back, like, it pops out of the water
Yeah.
at the end as, like, a sign that everything's going to be okay. So, yeah. My number 3, the spy.
The spy dancer.
Yeah, the spy dancer.
Uh,
The most French Star Wars thing to ever French.
Yep.
So comes from La Cachette Studios, which I had to look up how to Studio La Cachette, which I had to look up how to pronounce because I wanted to make sure I didn't butcher it.
so yeah, I'm just not gonna risk it.
But I really like French. I really like French animation style. I've seen it before in other things, but not realizing. But it's like
Yeah.
this very traditional, not quite watercolors, but very close to it.
Almost.
Yeah, and I've seen that style before, and I really like it. On top of that, it works really well for like what they're presenting, which is like this very much World War II style, because like the very first shot is like of Imperial tanks that look like World War II like Jeeps, like World War II tank Jeeps. Like it looks exactly like that. Like if you've ever seen like pictures of that, especially because they're trying to get the French resistance vibe going. And if you've seen photos from the French resistance, like from that perspective of like what was going down in France during World War II, and you see the vehicles, it looks exactly like that. And I thought, like, immediately I picked up that vibe when I watched it the first time. Oh, they did Love, Death, and Robots. Okay, so that's some more stuff I should check. Love, Death, and Robots has been on my list for so long.
Yeah, it's one that I've heard a lot about. I haven't watched it though, so I should.
But like you really get, I really like their animation style from watching that, and and immediately you get those World War II French Resistance vibes, and then of course then the characters talking, you're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
this is as French Resistance as it gets, which really works for Star Wars because Star Wars is World War II, Vietnam War
Yeah.
inspired, so obviously just straight up make the stormtroopers Nazis.
Yeah, we know.
We know.
We all know.
We all know. So like they just
Have you
essentially,
seen them?
and so yeah, I really like this story of this grieving mother who's using that grief for the betterment of the galaxy in her own way. And then we get this moment at the end that once again another bittersweet ending of this mother who's connected to her son but hasn't been able to save him by the end of the episode, although it's hinted that there's a chance he could be saved, because he does reflect on what she tells him,
Like,
because we find out that he was throughout the short we find out that her son was kidnapped when he was a baby by this Imperial officer. She believes that this Imperial officer is at one of her shows because
yeah, she goes up there because she's like, I know what I'm.
because she
So-
sees his cane, which
Yeah.
is what makes her realize, oh, this might be him.
Yeah.
Oh, well, at the time she's 100% sure, but we find out, okay, that's
So after the trackers are placed on the people.
yeah. Let's explain a little bit of how their system works. So she runs a club, very much, once again, very French Revolution resistance style, because French resistance they ran out of clubs very similarly to that a lot of the time to get their information, and so she's a dancer for this club, and the owner. And one of the younger dancers wants to try to do what they do, which is they place trackers on and bombs on the weapons and equipment of stormtroopers.
Who go there because they're tired of fighting rebels all the time.
Yeah, they're people too, and
They're like,
they want, they want to enjoy the pretty dancers.
Yep.
And so so they do that. And so she's doing her performance because she says, "No, you still haven't figured out the ropes yet. I'm gonna do this." She almost ruins her dance.
cabaret. That's
Yeah,
the kind of
cabaret, yeah.
establishment it is.
It's
I
the
was thinking
that
really
you were
hard.
thinking of the specific type of
Yeah.
club. Yeah, it's a cabaret club. And so
I don't know why that was so hard for me to think about.
which a lot of that is just
Yeah.
like this. It's a lot of dancers and stuff like that. It's live
Yeah,
entertainment.
you
is
go there
is-
to see people like play music and dance.
yeah, or sing and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, live entertainment is key. That's what really makes it a cabaret. And so the older dancer is like, "Nope, I'm gonna
You're
do
not
this.
ready yet."
You're not ready yet. I don't want you to get caught doing
Yeah.
this." And so she's doing it, and she sees the cane, flashes back to revealing to us what happened
Yeah.
of her son being kidnapped and
like,
her village burned.
All right, trackers are in place. I'm gonna go assassinate.
Well,
this.
before that, she sees that and she like goes into an episode where she
Yeah.
panics. She has like a mini panic attack, and she almost messes up the dance.
Yep.
Thankfully, the younger dancer comes in and saves them. And then at the top, she gets up to the top and she's like, "So all of you leave because I'm about to make a really dumb decision here, and
Yep.
I don't want y'all to be affiliated with it." And of course, none of them do because they're like, "No, we're supporting you because
She's like, no, you don't understand.
you don't understand. I'm
You
about
don't
to kill somebody.
understand."
I'm about to murder somebody." And so that's exactly what she decides to do. And of course, like I said, they like hesitantly leave, but they decide to come back because they're like, "No,
Yeah.
we're already in on this, so we might as well be all the
Yeah.
way in." And so
So we'll commit to this course of action.
yeah, so she goes in for the kill, only to realize that it's a younger officer, and she realizes that it's possibly her son, but we don't know this information yet. And then shootout happens because everything goes wrong because they realize,
Whoa, what the fuck, lady?
yeah, because
Why are you trying to kill our boss?
so shootout happens. KX droids come in and are just as annoying as they are in Jedi Survivor.
I'm like, oh great, I see enforcer droids have evolved into a new problem again.
And so cabaret gets
Help, please.
the cabaret gets shot, blown up, all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
fine.
It's gone. Thankfully, the French Resistance
They'll
movement
never
people are.
financially recover
yeah.
from this.
It's fine. They're ready to move on anyways. They're ready to go underground and full on French Resistance. Like they were like cabaret French Resistance. Now they're ready for like complete underground movement French Resistance. Because you got the two levels of French
Yeah.
Resistance. And so they go on like everybody else is on like a ship ready to leave, and they try to get her to leave, but she wants to like have one last moment to like convince this guy that, hey, these people are not who you think they are. They stole you from me, and I love you, but they don't. They are using you, is what she's trying to get across.
Yeah.
And he's in the denial stage of this information, and she gives him a locket and leaves. And so she leaves with the hope that he's going to eventually return to her. And we kind of get at the end that might be the case, because he looks at the hologram that's on that's on it, and it's a baby version of him, and he takes his hat off, and we see that his little horns were cut, showing that the Empire did take him and injured, like did that to him to make, more humanize him rather than make him whatever race. I don't know what race they're supposed to be in Star Wars, but off the top of my head, but they're trying to very much Imperial radicalize him by doing that. So it's once again another bittersweet episode ending, but I think on a more hopeful end of the bittersweet spectrum, because it's very much like, okay, there's a chance that this hopeful ending could happen. I'd say that it was like 50-50 on the
Yeah.
hopefuls versus the not hopefuls. I think we ended on the most hopeful of the of the shorts though. But do you want to talk about the pit first? Because I know you said you really liked the pit episode,
I do.
and I really liked the pit episode as well.
I'm also like thinking,
Poor David.
yeah.
David Diggs goes through it.
I was thinking about the pit and how they would have to like dig for it to be the way that it is.
Well, we see how it works.
Yeah, but I thought about it and I'm like, okay, so you guys went and used either like a repulsor lift or something.
Yeah, they use
go
we see that they use like ships and repulsor lifts to get everything up and down.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I guess, yeah.
So the premise of the pit, for those who didn't, once again, spoiler warning.
It's a Kyber mine.
Yeah, it's
Let's be.
well, it's a Kyber pit
Yeah,
specifically.
mine is too generous a word for it.
Yeah. Premise is these stormtroopers get like indentured slaves.
It's-
Well, it's slaves. It's slaves. There's no beating around the bush. They're just slaves. The Empire forces these slaves to dig a pit in the middle of the desert.
Yep.
Because they've managed to find these kyber crystals. And the stormtroopers are like, "Oh, great. We'll just dig down there and get as much kyber as we can and build this great city out of it." And then they abandon the people in the pit once they're done.
Yep.
They're like, "All right, cool. You got all this kyber for us.
Assholes.
You're done. We don't need you anymore.
Yep.
So, bye." Commander, by the way, led by Steve Blum.
Yep. Steve Bloom is everywhere.
Yeah, Steve Blum is everywhere.
You can't escape Steve Bloom
The-
in like animation.
No. So Zeb is the leader of this group. Zeb, you should know better. No. But yeah, so one of the slaves, Crux, played by David Diggs, he manages to climb his way out like Batman
Yeah.
in Dark Knight Rises, climbing out of the pit style.
Climbing freehand.
But he managed.
Fuck me.
But he manages to get out.
Yep.
After like he kind of manages to create this hopeful narrative for the people in the pit with the follow the light mantra that gets repeated later. And so he goes to the city, tells them, "Hey, this is what's going on. There are a bunch of people trapped in a pit. We're the ones that gave you this city. And also there are children included down there."
Yeah.
Which that gets people's attention. They're like, "Wait, children?" But unfortunately, before anybody can do anything about it, the stormtroopers come in and are like, "Nope, stop." And they take him away and toss him into the pit, killing him.
Yep. I think the thing that like really just fucking got me was that they stun him and then drag him into like fucking crime alley.
Yeah. Like, at first you think they're gonna just, like, beat him up or something and
Yeah.
maybe kill him in the alley. No. No.
They drag him all the way back to the pit
Oh.
to throw him over, and I'm like,
Which I get what they're doing, because as stormtroopers, like, as part of the Empire, they're doing this as a scare tactic
yeah,
to be like, don't do what he did. Which they don't. They come up with a solution which is very force related, which is they just
Yeah.
start chanting "Follow the light" and I'll get loud enough that the city can hear them despite being miles away, which the force is obviously
Yeah.
involved in
I'm
that.
like, I don't know how force space magic. That
Uh,
makes sense to me. I
and-
was trying to figure that
Yeah.
out.
And the main kid, Livy, that's
Yeah.
her name. And I think she's force connected
I'm
because
pretty sure she is.
we also see at the end that she has a kyber crystal that she kept, and
Yeah.
it lights up a little when she's holding it. It's very nice. And then of course it's the only short with a post credit scene,
Yeah.
which it's just this mural
Yeah, I like that mural.
to Crux, And yeah, it's very nice. It's a very nice screen. Like it's something that that would be nice as a screen cap. Like make it a screensaver type background, desktop background wallpaper type thing. It's very nice. But yeah, we end on. So that's basically the pit.
Yeah.
I mean, it ends on a more. It's a more hopeful note. Everybody gets out. It just takes you through it first before you get to the hopeful. AL's song is really good, and I think
Yeah.
it's a great way to end Volume 2. One, it's a very happy ending, very bright, colorful, the most hopeful of
Yeah.
the shorts, like the most hopeful.
Like I don't get the sense that
Trigger.
I don't get the sense that there was a lot of danger in that one.
I
But
mean, the
think that's
exploding
because-
crystals,
I'm like, yeah, but I'm like,
but it's not like it's not an exterior
not-
danger. Like there's no
Yeah.
Sith, there's no. It's more of a.
I'm like, listen, ow, Dad,
Yeah.
just let her finish singing. That's it. I was like, oh,
I do
just let her finish
yeah.
singing. That's all you have to do.
I do like the singing is incorporated into this, and while I doubt Triggerfish has checked out Light of the Jedi or any High Republic novels, it's very Star Wars for that because of those books. Because like you're like, oh yeah, we know that singing is like songs are a way that
like,
the Force
that's
can
one
travel.
way that it can work.
Yeah, we know that, and so I like that, and so I really liked, and it's also I like all the characters.
Yeah, like
Like
don't get this.
while like Al's dad is very much
Is very overprotective.
he's very overprotective, but he's doing it because he loves his daughter.
Yeah.
Like it's not from a bad place.
Yeah, it's not like bordering on mania level of thing. It's like sometimes you sing and these crystals explode.
Yeah, Kratu, that's his name. And then oh no, Kratu's the Jedi. I like the Jedi in this as well.
Yeah.
They initially immediately understand what's going on. They're like, "Oh, this person's connected to the Force in some way." But Dad's like, I don't want any of that Jedi business other than selling crystals to you. That's the most I'll do here.
I sell crystals to Jedi. That's what I do.
Also, the most Kyber crystals have been involved in like Visions, because like I think in Volume 1 the most we got was the twins and the duel.
No, there was another one in one where like the ninth.
Oh yeah, Ninth
Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah, Ninth Jedi. So yeah, okay, then about the same.
Yeah.
Visions really loves playing with Kyber crystals, and I kind of like it. I like the Ninth Jedi's interpretation of Kyber crystals.
He's like, why are they like that? And the blacksmith dad is like, because I designed them that way.
Yeah, I designed them to where they are connected to the user in like a very intimate way, to where it reveals who you are as a person even. And I kind of like that. While it's not like canon, obviously, I feel like it should be, because it fits in canon very well with how like bleeding crystals and all that and healing crystals and all that works. I think it fits. And I really like how Al's song also fits in. I think that fits in very well.
Yeah.
Volume 2, we talked about this off air, but
Yeah,
we're
I'm
getting
like,
to the part where we come
if
to
we're
our rating
grading
of it.
it.
Yeah, for our grading of it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we wanted from Volume 2. It does more of the same of what Visions Volume 1 did. It doesn't exceed expectations in any way,
Yeah.
but it does like give us what we wanted, which was we just wanted more Visions. We wanted more. We wanted more studios. We wanted more awesome animation. We wanted more cool stories that aren't canon but are still cool, and that's what we got.
Yeah.
There's no bad episodes in our opinion. There's just only a few select that are outstanding, and then the rest are just good. Same, and that's really how Volume 1 was too.
Yeah.
Volume 1 didn't have any bad episodes. I have least favorite episodes. That's a least favorite episode. I think Akakiri was the worst episode to end Volume 1 on, in my opinion. I know people who love Akakiri. I don't like the ending, and I don't like
Akakiri is the most like downer ending. It's like, congratulations, you cheated destiny. you're evil now.
Yeah.
You got what you wanted. Maybe not how you wanted it.
And I understand that even that fits within what
I
we
hope
know
your
of.
monkey's paw is fine.
And I know that Akakiri definitely fits with what we know within canon, which is, cheating in that sort of way does lead to the dark side. It just wasn't an episode for me. I've come to appreciate it more on rewatches. It's still just not one of my top episodes. It's now gone from, it's gone from my least favorite to being it's okay.
It's gone from I don't like it to I get it.
Yeah, like I get why people like it. It's just not for me. Volume 1, Volume 2, I did not have an episode like that.
Yeah.
But I also, once again, it doesn't exceed like what Volume 1 did. It just delivers more of the same, which is fine. We don't need a show that exceeds every single season. Sometimes we just need shows that just give us more of what we like.
Mhm.
And I think Visions does that perfectly, and I'm excited for whatever comes down the line if they make Volume 3, which I think there's not been a hard confirm, but there's been rumors of a confirmation for Volume 3, I believe. And if I wouldn't be surprised. Everybody always talks about how they like it, so
Yeah.
like, let me see here if there's anything on this article here. Just double checking, just in case there's like anything I missed of like somebody saying for sure Volume 3 is happening. Nope. But both volumes have critical acclaim. Audiences also like them, except for the weird fans who are like, I don't like Vision because I don't like new things, which is like what happened with Volume 1 of the, why are Japanese studios making Star Wars stuff? Because if you know the history of Star Wars, it's very circular. It makes the most sense. And obviously they can't make that complaint this volume because
Yep.
studios around the world got to be involved.
Yep.
But you gave it like a B, which
yeah, I was like, it's
on
a
our
B+.
which on our normal scale that would be like an 88 or an 8.5,
yeah.
somewhere around there. I'd give it about the same, 8.5 out of 10. I definitely if you like Volume 1, you'll like Volume 2. That's really my recommendation on it. If you like Visions, you get more Visions. So next week,
Yeah.
I have the schedule somewhere. Despite my loss of files. Thankfully, I was already kind of reworking my scheduling system. Let's see, next week is 8, 9, 10. Next week's the 10th, right? No. Yeah. Next week, Young Jedi Adventures. It'll be fine.
Fine.
It's a good time. So yeah, that's next week.
All right.
So let's do our little things that we normally talk about. So we know on Sundays, so tomorrow,
Yes.
from 5 to 7 p.m. Central Time, you have a D&D game that you play.
Yes.
Trials of Nebu.
Yep.
And that can be found on twitch.tv/Steam_dungeon, all caps on Steam, although I think Twitch doesn't care generally.
Yeah.
That's just how it's marketed.
I won't be playing tomorrow, but you guys should still go and check it out. The rest of the cast can keep you very entertained. Unfortunately, I have to work because I like being alive.
Has the dinner party happened yet?
No. Because God forbid we do anything at a rapid
I'm
pace.
so excited for this dinner party. I want it to go like the Always Sunny Thanksgiving dinner. And then I guess that's it for really exterior stuff that that aren't like directly channel related.
Yes.
As for channel related stuff, if you are watching on YouTube, youtube.com/Escape Reality Films, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You can comment, all that good stuff. And then on twitch.tv /Escape Reality Films, if you're watching there, follow or subscribe. All of that is very useful and helpful to us. It shows your support. Other ways you can show support is the Patreon that we've mentioned at the top of the episode when we were talking about a bunch of stuff. some stuff that we mentioned. You get access to our tabletop system that we've been working on, the playtest version. You get access to that. You get access to that because you get I think you can get access to that for. No. I still made that specifically tied to the Patreon, because you can join the Discord for free now. It is linked. If you're watching on YouTube, it's linked down below. If you're watching on Twitch, it's in our hyperlinks that you can, where it shows our other social media profiles. And if you go there, you can come hang out with us. We're trying to do a lot more. We've got more. We're doing one shots for D&D stuff, and maybe some Star Wars ones down the line.
Yeah.
I'm working on a fun one right. Ooh, my Grim Hollow dice almost fell. I'm actually working on a fun one right now that involves Acquisitions Incorporated, as well as another module. But that's a surprise. I don't want to reveal too much of, because the players still don't quite know exactly what they're doing, because we got new players. Speaking of, that brings me back to the joke about classes that you were talking about earlier, about just doing weird things with classes. One of these players who has never played D&D before, I was explaining like classes and all that stuff and character creation. He was like worried about how many sheets and all that he has to keep track of. And I'm like, well, if you're a martial class, which most beginner players are, you only have really 2 sheets to worry about. But if you're magic, you have so much more to keep track of. And then that's when he was like, well, I'm just gonna, because I was like, most beginner players don't choose a magic class off the bat. And he's like, then I'm gonna be a magic caster off the bat. And then last night, he sent me a text that I read this morning, which was like, he told his roommate about, or one of his friends about the fact that he wants to play a magic class, and his friend knows more about D&D, like went off on him of like, why you shouldn't do that. And he was like, he texted me, he was like, now I'm definitely doing it.
I'm doing it out of spite now.
That's Matt.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, so I mean, he's been a Twitch subscriber before, so love shouting him out every now and then. He's a good friend.
God, I can't wait to play on another one of your Star Wars games. Those are always fun.
Well, we'll bring it back. I gotta rewrite some stuff because of the lost content.
Oh, did you lose some campaign notes?
No, I didn't, but I lost like. Oh, I did lose a lot of stuff actually, but not anything regarding that. Just older campaign stuff. So Edge of the Empire a lot of pictures and other notes are gone.
Okay.
What else is there? Oh, other reasons to join the Patreon. You get to watch our YouTube content a week before it's uploaded to YouTube, which I just started playing Divinity Original Sin. I finished The Last of Us completely. What else have I started doing? Oh, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, I think I'm done with. Although I might play a little bit more of it, because there is some side content that you can play, where I can play as our favorite D&D character to reference on this show, Dritz. We just need to have like a Dritz counter for how many times I mentioned Dritz. And then
it's just the Krillin own counter.
What other cool stuff is on there? Oh, my books are on there, so you can get my books for a discounted price, which actually, since we're at the house, I can show you them. Although I can't show you the hardcover copy that we just released for Super Worlds, but here's Super Worlds. We also got The Coat Wars, which is a short story collection that takes place in the same setting as Super Worlds, which is it's Star Wars meets MCU film, superheroes, wartime, with a little bit of focus on characters and more than like the action itself. It's very character driven. The short stories are like different characters dealing with stuff either a little bit before the event. Well, actually, we go as far back as 20 years before the events of the first of Super Worlds and Coat Wars. And you can read both. You can read either one first. Super Worlds just adds context, and Coat Wars is like character stuff where you're like, oh, I understand this character a little better now. And then we also got Time Ninja, which is my most recent, which is, that one, I kind of say Highland. I usually do like Highlander with a time travel movie, but I don't know what time travel movie to blend it with because there's really no movie that uses time travel like in that way. Where it's like, because the main character is a time, like, can actually manipulate time as like a superpower rather than like, there's no machine involved in the time travel. But it's feudal Japan with some time travel elements and like Highlander style, like in the terms of like, it's very fantasy with rules that are established that I like. Yeah, like that, but not as like nothing of that like specific nature. But I really like that, and I do plan to write more of the Time Ninja setting because I really like that. I like the characters, I like the ideas. But you can get all three of those just from being on one of the levels of the Patreon. I think it's the $20 level, and now you would get the hard copy of Super Worlds. You wouldn't get you wouldn't get the print, the paperback copy, because I still save money if because the way it would work, you get more bang for your buck because you're getting 3 books, as well as the Super Universe playtest for our tabletop setting. You would also, and then I get more money out of it as well because I essentially pay the printer's cost to get the books for you. So everybody saves money because I get more money from Amazon that way. Well, Amazon just doesn't take their cut other than for the printing fee at that point. So everybody wins.
That's everything, right?
I think so. At least since we're here, not at the studio. If we were at the studio, we would shout out a few other people. But
shout out to our patrons.
Oh yeah, shout out to our patrons, by the way, since we are talking about Patreon. Jennifer Brantley, thank you. Do you want to show the thing? Because Jennifer Brantley. Okay, so Jennifer is his mom, which is why she supports us, and she's a fantastic person to have support us, and we love her for it. But because it was your birthday recently, you were asked, "What do you want as a gift?"
Yes.
And you had a couple options, and they were Star Wars related.
Yeah.
One was a lightsaber. You did not choose the lightsaber.
No.
But that's also like it's Seth. I don't expect the lightsaber. Lightsabers are more my thing.
Yeah.
And less his thing.
Yeah.
But his thing is still cool.
I kind of have a reputation among our friend group as being the guy that shows up to like fantasy settings with a gun. For better or worse.
Yeah, you're the gunslinger of the group.
Yeah.
So he got a really cool replica of Din Djarin's gun. So he got a really cool blaster.
I'm getting used to learning how to spin it in my hand.
Yeah, spinning a gun is not always.
It's not easy.
No, in fact, I think that's part of how I broke my prop gun is just using it too much and doing the spinning trick and then pew 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 immediately with it. But my prop gun, it's sad. All my prop guns are dead. I have no more prop guns.
You killed your prop guns.
To be fair, one of them died on the shooting location of that short. The other one died more recently.
Yeah. On the upside, though, now whenever we do like the in-character tabletop games, I can just put it on the table.
I mean, it's fun roleplay.
One of the things that like on the audio, because most of the tabletop games are audio based.
Yeah. And ours is mostly audio, but we try to do visuals by at least showing like a digital map.
I had a problem when we first kind of started doing that, because one of my characters didn't talk. So while I would talk and describe what is going on,
we wouldn't see like your hand motions and anything. Yeah.
One of the things that I would do is because, God forbid, pants or sips goes anywhere without a knife.
Place a knife on the table.
Place a knife on the table.
Yeah.
Or like little.
But trying to think anything else besides all that. I think we covered everything for this week.
We're good.
So thank you all for watching once again. We will see you guys next week to discuss Young Jedi Adventures. Thank you. My brain just like shut down for a second.
You convinced me to do this.
It's canon and
we have to cover it.
And it's
canon,
only a few episodes.
And it's recent.
It's only a few episodes. It's
one of the things I've been seeing is a lot of oh man, can't wait to see Order 66 again. But
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
like,
getting tired of those jokes. Like the first
look.
time it's funny. The first time it's funny.
I'm like, oh man,
First,
you guys must not know this takes place 300 years back.
no, I've seen people on TikTok even say, "Yeah, we know," but like they like make fun of people that are calling them out for that, and it's like, that's because your joke is dumb now.
Mm.
Like it works once.
Yeah.
It works once. But then when you just continue making the same joke of Anakin's gonna kill all the younglings, it gets stale and it gets annoying. At least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And at least from other opinions of what I've seen of commenters who are like, "Yeah, you're just saying the same joke. It's not interesting
Yeah.
anymore."
Oh god.
Yeah. But anything
Do
else?
you know about the Nihil?
Yeah. The Nihil are just as bad, but we'll talk about
not.
it on the
I don't
episode.
think that-
I have notes about
Yeah.
that as well once we talk about
Oh.
the episodes.
All right.
So thank you all once again. Have a good one. I have
Can't
spoken.
see my left hand because it keeps going off to the side.
Yeah.
So I'll use my right one.
Yeah.
You have a good